Hello, everyone.
What's up, folks? How's everybody? Hello, hello.
Hello. Hello, hello, everyone.
I'm kind of at work, so I'm kind of in and out.
No worries, as long as you don't
Oh,
get any
yeah.
crap from the boss.
Yeah. Well, we're working from home. Like I'm on the east side of Florida, so I'm on the
Okay.
other side where the hurricane's hitting. So we're just gonna have some nasty weather for a couple days.
Yeah,
No.
we're just
Yeah.
talking about that just before letting everybody in here. It's like it's not even, always the hurricane, right? It's the aftermath, the 2 weeks of no power potential, that sort of stuff, the water flooding that gets septic. Like it's just a crappy situation, literally, that you don't want to be in. Um, Hope you all stay safe over there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge inconvenience, but that's what I learned growing up here is everyone goes to the Chinese restaurants if the power's out because they use gas for the grills. That's a tip.
Yeah, that works. That's one thing we were grateful for, even in Ontario, Canada. We wouldn't be hurricanes, but you can get some severe winter storms and ice storms that would like knock out power lines and stuff. And that's when you were glad that you had, natural gas as your, for fireplaces and stoves and whatever.
Yeah, that sounds pretty dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, only because if everything's frozen, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature for when you're thawing out, right? You can grind and chainsaw your way out of ice chunks, but if it doesn't melt, it doesn't melt. And then when it does, if it's really a big temperature swing, you're looking at flooding, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I would argue that it's not as bad as, what you guys are about to get, I think.
Yeah, yeah. They need a break over there. They had enough already.
Yeah, it's not even that, right? It's just like the swells, like 15 to 20 foot swells on the west coast there. That's, it's crazy.
That's that's insane. I
Yeah.
can't imagine. Yeah, I caught up on one of your videos about my design critique about using Corvette, Chevy, and all that. So I'm working on that.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I
don't want you to
think
lose your shop over something that innocent enough that you just didn't know, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely working on that.
Good.
I think it was a site called Trademark. I know you got the trademark US whatever it was, but it was another site I found. I'll find it in a little bit.
Yeah,
That
there's
it kind of like makes it easier to find, you know. That
trademarkia.com. I
probably.
I think it is. It's trademark and then IA on the end. It's a little easier to navigate than USPTO.gov, but with the new updates to the USPTO, which is the US Patent and Trademark Office, that is the one that you need to pay attention to just because that's the Bible. That's the actual registry, right? So that's where where Trademarkia might be a couple weeks behind in whatever they update.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
just be careful. Yeah. I would definitely try to
You-
get used to using USPTO.gov as it is the only, you know, real source.
Yeah.
It's the registry.
And you have something on your J Circle on how to like look that up for just like t-shirts. That's was my issue is like what category
Yeah,
to use.
depending on the niche here too, we might even do a quick run over of that. But yeah, there's definitely we'll have to figure out where I stuck that, but it's definitely in there somewhere. It's in one of the calls. I
Okay.
might just do a
Okay.
quick overview of that on this call too. Why not, right? A learning for
All right.
everybody, a reminder.
Appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Take it away, Sheila, if you've got anything.
Only just to let you know that we're having another call today at 2 o'clock Eastern for Etsy shop reviews, in case you weren't aware. And other than that, I think we're ready to go.
All right. So, thanks for everybody for submitting your niche ideas or keyword ideas here. I'm just gonna read not who submitted what, but just what was submitted here, and then I'm just gonna give you my initial thoughts on each one as we go through. Um, First we had actually not in any particular order, but we had Northwest Outdoors, camping, hiking, fishing, hunting, etc. Northwest themed. So all of these things I would say are not unique to Northwest at all. Um, like camping, hiking, fishing. I was, the east side of Canada and partook in all of them. So I don't know, like when you're looking at something that is specific to a geographic location, I would think more of something that you can't do uh, other places, right? Like maybe I don't know, Rocky Mountain hiking, specific mountains ranges. On the East Coast, you have the Appalachians. On the West, you've got the Rockies, right? I would think, try to lean in a little more into what makes the Northwest or the West, unique compared to the rest or the East. Yeah, and leaning into things like that. Then there's dogs and feminist political stuff. So those are very two different overarching. Um, the feminist political stuff is, I think, niched enough. There's lots going on in there, and we've actually touched on a bunch of that in previous calls. So I'm not going to be diving into that one. But dogs alone, I think, is also too big. There's pets, which is way too big, way too broad, and then dogs, which is in my opinion, is still really broad. That's why Stacy's been successful targeting. It was initially Great Danes, but then because we have a Great Dane, we know the dogs, and if you know any of uh, the particular dog breeds, they all have very, very unique personalities, right? I don't know cats enough to know, how unique their personalities can be based on breeds, but with the Great Dane element, then it kind of just you broaden out a little bit to large dog breeds. So I would figure out what kind of dog you have. Is it mid-size? Are they the labs? Are they the ones with the high octane like labs and boxers that can go all day? On the hiking trails, or if you wear out your arm throwing a ball for them to chase, or are they the little dogs? That's funny. Like my mom's got a Morkie. It's what I don't know what you call that. What is that? I don't know what the Morkie part is. It's a Yorkshire and something Maltese, I think, mix. They call it a Morkie. It needs to get clipped, so it's like hypoallergenic. So they say, even though I'm allergic to it still. But in the winter, those months, she's got boots, little booties that she puts on him. Um, and then a jacket because his fur is like 2 inches off the slush in the streets when you're walking through winter or on wet, in the fall or spring, right? Maltese and Yorkie, yes, thank you, Kathleen. So, unique little dog or low to the ground problems, right? Think of things that identify the segment of dog breed, right? You've got the endless energy, you've got the big fart sack couch potatoes on the large side, and then you've got the little ones that are, they're rubbing their bellies on the ground potentially, right? And not because they're a wiener dog that is touching the ground, but just because their stature, right? So all the little things, like small dog, big attitude kind of things. So when you say dogs in general, not niched enough. The and then you're thinking of all the things in any of those niches that people would say to you at the dog park, like some of the stuff for the big dog breeds, like Great Dane, we hear every day. Oh my God, he's a horse! Like, no, he's not a horse. So this is no, it's not a horse with a picture of your dog face on it, right? Or no, it doesn't have a saddle. All the things that people say that you would say to somebody in passing, right? It's all the things that you just kind of haha laugh with them, but you've heard it a million and one times, right? If you had literally a quarter penny for every time you heard something, you'd be rich, right? So a little more refined. Think of like if you're into dogs, it's probably because you have one. So I would think of like what kind of dog you have and why you chose that dog, and those are that segment of that market, that ideal customer within that overarching niche that you'll be able to target in a way that way more specifically and way more passionately than you would if you were just targeting dogs in general or dog lovers in general. Um, We have horses and reading as two separate niches. Horses could be a good one, but again, are we looking at wild horses? Are we looking at working horses? Are we looking at horses as a means of transportation or just maybe ranching? I don't know what purpose you would have horses for other than pets that way. Um, that kind of thing, right? You're talking, are you into equestrian type stuff, competition, right? Very, very different ideal customers within those uh, in the horses in general, overarching kind of area of interest. I wouldn't even call that necessarily a niche. It's same with dogs. It's still really vague and really broad, right? And we have reading as well again and homeschooling. So we've touched on a fair amount of that, both of those in and out. Um, Reading, I would again get into what style of reading, right? Are we talking, and not knowing much about the different niches there, but hey, you've got fiction and nonfiction, I think are the two biggest probably dividing, like that biggest dividing line. And then you're going to want to get into if it's nonfiction, is it documentaries? Is it historical stuff? Is it, different things, true crime type stuff is and then on the fiction side you've got like all kinds, right? You got fantasy and forgive me for not knowing much more of the different book genres, but there's all kinds in the fiction as well, right? um so you're going to want to like take a look a little bit introspectively at what it is you choose to buy when you're buying those the books that you're reading, right? um See a question there from Brian. What about a particular sport? Good question. So in the case where I would do sports, I would probably, if it's a really popular sport, you could lead with that. But I would probably target, if you're talking about outdoor winter sports. If you're talking about winter sports, like I would, you could kind of branch out to winter sports eventually, but I would target outdoor winter sports, right? So like skiing, cross country skiing, downhill skiing, um, snowshoeing, you could throw in there because it's not super popular. But if you have people coming for outdoor winter sports in general, people that ski have typically, especially if you're downhill skiing, there's a good chance you've had snowshoes on your feet at one point. If you're thinking of the mountains and the fluff that everybody's in, snowboarding, same idea. Um, what other outdoor sports could there be? Hockey, right? Like park hockey, rink hockey, pond hockey, tons of stuff like that. Um, yeah, and then, that's traditionally basketball, football could be considered winter sports, but they're also, or basketball, for example, but it's also played indoors. So I wouldn't consider that like the winter sport. It just wouldn't make sense. It's completely different, right? It's something that you would, suit up for and brave the elements in what I would consider like a outdoor winter sport that way. So, still, I wouldn't target sports, um, on their own, right? Still have no idea what pickleball is. Yeah, I didn't know what that was a year ago, really either. Almost 2 years ago now, I guess. But you can get customized pickleball paddles, I believe, on Printify now. So it's that popular that there are packages. So it cuts two paddles and a couple of balls, I think, in a bag. Um, that said, there was also
We have a question.
somebody. Sorry,
We have a question. Go ahead.
go ahead. There was a question.
Yeah, can you turn mom life t-shirt into a niche, or how can you break it down into a smaller niche?
What kind of mom? How old are the kids? You know, are we talking about 6 to 10? Or are we talking about 12-year-old where they're getting too cool for mom to be dropped off at school? Still now you're just a taxi driver, right? All the things that my mom used to say are coming back now, right? Oh, I'm not even your mom anymore. I'm just your cab driver, right? It was like, those, you know, the things like think back to your own experiences, right? I'm so far removed from the mom life niche, but I can think of funny things, right, that I would have said to my mom or that she would have said to her friend about us growing up, like, oh, they don't need us anymore, but they know better. And yeah, I'm the mom, but my kids know better. I don't know, funny, things like that, right? I would leverage AI for stuff like that for sure, and ask them for, ask it for sarcastic things that parents would say with their uh, about or to their kids, their 10 or 12-year-old kids who think they know better, things like get a little bit, specific and ask it for 10 ideas. You might only be able to think of one or two, like myself just now just came up with two, but I might not be able to think of three or four. But if you ask AI, ask it for 10 and you'll get 10, right? They may not be all gems. You might get three or four, but that's still more than the one or two you might be able to come up with on your own. Hope that helps.
Okay.
We got,
And
sorry, go ahead.
Liz, you're getting some questions. Do you want me to wait or?
No, that's fine. It's all niche
Okay.
related. Like we don't have to do a
Yep.
ton of research or just the insight is great too, I think, for everybody, right? So sure, fire away.
This is asking, should I focus my niche more on my ideal customer or my niche?
So your niche is overarching. Your ideal customer will be within that segment, right? So like we said before, the if you're in the fitness niche, I think it's also too broad, right? So are you somebody who is into hiking? Are you somebody that is a long distance runner? Are you somebody that's into high intensity interval training, like a CrossFit or something like that, right? Very unique um, you know, interests or sub niches within that, right? Very unique ideal customers. If you're into fitness in general, also in that comes are you the 20 something who is looking for the Instagram worthy photos, just trying to get shredded to look pretty online? Are you the that 40 something who may not yet have health implications, but knowing that the next chapter you want to be able to kind of climb the Mayan ruins like I did, right? So we started walking more, want to get into a little bit more in slightly better shape so that the potential impacts or ramifications of being out of shape down the line are kind of put off a little bit? Or are you in your 60s or maybe 70s and you've had a potential scare, or the doctor has said these certain elements in your blood or whatever are a potential concern. So now you're making lifestyle choices that impact what kind of exercise you might be doing with that fitness niche, right? So um, the niche is number one, but then within that is like identifying that target customer. They're very completely different things all within, the fitness niche, right? So I would start there with fitness, for example, and then go down into like, what are they doing? Are you targeting a senior? And then this is where you can kind of niche down and target that ideal customer at the same time. We're looking at a senior who's doing low impact stuff in the water, which otherwise on land would be more walking, you know, uh, or somebody who's doing some jogging, or somebody who's a little maybe younger or more fit doing like competitive stuff like the CrossFit competitions or the marathons or the warrior dashes or whatever those high octane you know obstacle course type things, right? Where they're getting covered in mud and running through fire and stuff. All kinds of completely different people. So I hope that makes sense. There's lots to kind of go through here. We had another submission that was cat lovers and dog lovers. That is their niche. I sell t-shirts and mugs and no pet stuff, and I'm focusing on getting at least one item, shirt, in this case, shirt, figured out before I venture into other territories. That's smart. I would always implore you to, figure out how to try to nail designing for one product before you kind of introduce a bunch of other products. But cat lovers and dog lovers, do you have both? Are you passionate about both? Because those are not only dog lovers alone or cat lovers alone, in my opinion, being way too broad. If you're trying to do both, usually you're a cat person or a dog person, and very seldom, and I'm not saying there aren't millions out there, but very seldom are you both, right? Um, for lack of, they're just very different pet owners too. The dog owners enjoy the companionship in a way, almost like a parenting element, where a cat doesn't need you. You can go away for a weekend and the cat will survive, right? If it's got a litter box and food. A dog will lose its mind. You'll come back to a destroyed house, or a dog that won't eat for another week because you've emotionally scarred them, right? It's just not a thing. The dog needs you to be there all the time, and the cat doesn't all the time. Some, exceptions to the rule. There are cats that I'm sure, fall into the category of needing to be present, and owners who also feel the same. Um, yeah, no problem if you're, and there are people who are both, and if you have both, then there's definitely different, you know, personality aspects. Yeah, exactly what you just said in there. Different aspects of the personalities appeal to me. So how many of each do you have? Put it that way, right? 2 cats, 1 dog. Okay. Wow. Well, you know, look at their personalities and what they do, right? So like one dog, like dogs alone, still again too broad. Cats alone, still again too broad. So I would definitely, niche down that way. Targeting both, you're targeting a very small segment. You are, it's just not, it's not something that you would have to target each individual separately. And for that to happen, you're going to need, it's like having almost like a general store. You're kind of like having a gray, you're graying the boundaries there of having like too many broad niches where it's basically a general store at that point. So try to niche down into, like I said in the beginning, the size of the dog or the kind of the cat, and figure out one and go with that for sure. I wouldn't try to do both. It's just way too broad. Typically, and you are the exception to the rule. There are always, the outliers, but typically, dog and cat people are very different people. We love our dogs, don't love cats, don't hate cats, but I'm allergic, not my thing. They seem to know that and come up and rub all over me, and it drives me insane. But Stacy, on the other hand, will love a cat just as much as a dog, but we prefer the dogs. We prefer something that will listen to you, need you, and pay attention to you, uh, almost unconditionally versus a cat that may plot to kill you while you're sleeping, right? So obviously I'm joking there, but that would be a good one too. If you're going into the cat niche, you could do some dark, funny cat things, right? I have a Facebook page that I started for a brand that I was doing dabbling in some cat stuff. I don't love cats, but I started posting stuff about cats being murderous and sly and sneaky, and it got some pretty good traction pretty quickly. Surprisingly quickly. In like 2 months, there was like 3,000 followers or whatever on my Facebook page. So, those are the kinds of things. Like lean into stuff that is a little more unique and that hasn't been exploited, and go ahead and do that if you want. I'm not giving you these ideas so that you don't use them. They're there. People like the sarcasm, they like the funny, they like the dark, they like the creepy, they like the oddities, the occult type stuff without getting, a little too far into the weirdness. But embrace the uniqueness, embrace the weirdness. I think it's a fun spot to be. Uh
Okay. Tunde says we are trying to use the Christian niche, like Bible verses, Christian moms, Christian plus sport.
okay. Yeah, again, this is going to come down to the homework that we had last and what you'll see today's homework as well. But you're going to want to emulate or look at what's working in some shops and see how they're matching those. I know we had I think it was Robert who was doing a decent job with workout gear that was faith infused, I'll call it. I think his shop was more faith based than workout based, but some of his best sellers seem to be you know the workout end of that. So I was also trying to, I had mentioned that maybe you could expand to some workout gear also because he had a almost a knack for designing for that, right? It was a little gritty, his designs and distress, some of that. So that to me would appeal to, that kind of powerlifting or heavy lifting or, hardcore kind of workout gym bro kind of customer, right? So it didn't necessarily have to be religious based. So, um, but yeah, and then, if you're going into sports, like think of the parents too. I would say like the sport parent could be a good one for your high school kids or your younger kids. Um, Again, leaning into the idea of mom being the taxi driver, or the the taxi driver for the sports team, right? It's never just driving your kid; it's also the kid's friends or taking turns doing the carpooling, that sort of stuff, right? Like carpool mom or carpool sports mom. The funny stuff, right? Like you can make it unofficial job titles. Forgive me, I gotta sneeze here. Excuse me. See? Just talk about cats and it all goes downhill. Eyes are watering, sneezing. Um, And then we have fiber artists, knitting, crochet, etc. Though I know the niche, navigating SEO and tags when you're trying to sell to people who hand make stuff. Tickle in the nose there, sorry. Navigating the SEO and tags when you're trying to sell stuff to people who hand make stuff on a handmade stuff website is surprisingly, yeah, being Etsy, surprisingly considerably challenging. If I search crochet t-shirts, I just get a whole load of t-shirts that have been crocheted. So I would have to suggest probably introducing um, the style. So in terms of the emotion you're evoking or trying to with the design. So are they funny? Are they sarcastic? Words like that, because those are words that traditionally do not make sense for what you're crocheting, right? You're not making a sarcastic scarf or a sarcastic toque or a sarcastic mitten or whatever it is you're doing, right? But you are making sarcastic or funny t-shirts about crocheting or about hooking, or I've seen I actually had a design that was naughty naughty hooker, right? With you know knit yarn and knots with the two hooks there, right? It had sold well. Um, or or I'm a hooker on the weekends and it's got, the hooks, like some so sarcastic, funny, crude, always sells. Something that oh, you saw that today. Awesome. Um, there's, for example, things that would be opposite to what you think. So when I think knitting and crocheting, traditionally you think like, no disrespect to you, Em, at all, but like think typically it's always been traditionally an older demographic kind of hobby, right? It's always been the grandma. It's always been, my grandma made me the nicest slippers growing up. It was always that, right? My mom didn't knit, or she had, but not the same way, right? Like, or not as avid or as into it as grandma was. So she would always make us our slippers and stuff, even though I wanted, not pink. Sometimes you got pink, and it is what it is, right? But there was always that, right? But so it's traditionally what I was getting at is it's always been like this, like a wholesome hobby. It's always been wholesome, and it always had this like familial connotation around it, right? Like it was a knit sweater from an older family member. But as soon as you start introducing the exact polar opposite, like I'm a hooker on the weekends, some sarcasm, some crudeness to it, now you kind of like just introduce a badass element to what would otherwise be a wholesome kind of idea. And that is something that would just make people bust out laughing. Like if you saw a grandma wearing a shirt that said, I'm a hooker on the weekends, not only is it funny because it's grandma wearing a shirt, but it's also alluding to one of her, you know, her most passionate hobbies or whatever she's doing, right? So super funny. Obviously not in a way that would offend a bunch of people, but it's just something that would evoke a bunch of, like, if you open that shirt and grandma's wearing it at Christmas or opens it up and holds it up, everybody in the room is going to laugh. It's going to be pictures for days. You're going to make her put it on right now, and that kind of thing, right? So just to get the laughs. So to introduce what would not be the status quo in terms of the emotion you're trying to get out of it. So you're I crochet so I don't kill people, like you're doing this to keep your mind occupied, to satiate some anxiety potentially, to pass time maybe, and to the idea of like idle hands is no good for anybody, right? So um, hey, Macarena, or that. Yeah, get it. Macrame. Oh wait, you're just doing crochet and knit. No, whatever. That's still funny. Um, yeah, so being able to introduce the kind of the opposite emotion that you're trying to do is just it's the shock and awe of wholesome versus emotionality there. Funny gifts. We have a submission for Anisha was funny gifts. This is absolutely way too broad. So, going back to what I think, if I say dogs or cats alone are way too broad, uh, not only because there's like hundreds of breeds of each, but when you say funny gifts, now you're not even talking necessarily dogs or cats even, right? Like it's just way too broad. So I would, the homework is going to help you a little bit with that too. But I would look at, go through the Etsy Quick Start Guide. It gives you some kind of insight, and then the Ideal Customer Workbook. Um, Yeah, and then followed up quickly by my niches are animal lover, so it's also way too broad. What kind of animals, right? Are we talking about? So at least animals is more niche than funny gifts. That's just a way too big a funnel. A funny gift could be a funny crochet T-shirt for grandma, but a funny gift could also be a funny dog sweater, an actual sweater for a dog, right? A completely two different items that are targeting completely two different people, both of which who may never shop in the same store, right? Um, Animal lover, what kind of animals? Farm animals, wild animals, cute, sleepy animals, um, the street animals like the skunks, the squirrels, the raccoons, all kinds, right? There's all kinds of like segmented things that you can do without specifically targeting only one animal. But that said, maybe we could do some deep dive into, I think animals is probably a good one. So if we were going to go with, see, horses has popped up a couple of times here. So maybe we can do what kind of horses, right? So the idea here is like, I don't have anything, I don't know, like specific enough here. So other than the feminist and political stuff that we had already done, um, maybe we could look at, and we do have, oh, there was another one that was somebody saying, I don't have a niche yet, but I want to start selling ornaments on Amazon with the Printify integration. I would love to have Jay's input on niche selection for ornaments if possible. So this goes back to now looking into tangibles for the niche versus products shop. In this case, your niche is the product. So if you're selling ornaments that are, think that they're going to only be on display for about a month a year, right? Um, if you're doing a product shop, then you're going to want to hit as many niches as possible. So, and then bonus points because to set yourself apart, offer that element of customization or personalization. So, I would suggest heavily if you're doing the ornaments that you go with, not only personalized, but the what do you why can't I think of that? The momentous occasions like the memorial stuff. So like pets passing, their name, year, or the monumentous occasion on the other end. So baby's first Christmas or dad's first Christmas as a dad, right? Or something like that, or a mom. Those kinds of things that people would buy as gifts for that person when the baby is born or and if it's a birth of a new child thing, it can be for the dad, it can be for the mom, it can be the baby's face, the name, or whatever you wanted to do, right? So but also I would target, people are big on Halloween and some people just go right from Halloween. There's no Thanksgiving, there's no anything else in between. It's Halloween to Christmas. We were huge on Halloween. It was more important or more fun for us at least than Christmas was. So like I could have seen us at one point having, potentially a black Christmas tree with like different ornaments on it, right? A little more gothic, a little more dark, a lot of fun. Um, you can lean on all the life events, the seasonal events that happen in addition to offering the personalization stuff, right? One of my friends is one of our old neighbors. His wife had a wreath for every season. She had like 14 or 15 wreaths, and at Christmas she had three or four on her own on every single wall. But then there was an Easter wreath, there was a Halloween wreath, there was a Thanksgiving wreath, there was a spring wreath. It was crazy. And he on the other side was super outdoors. Fishing and hunting was his thing. So they had hunting and fishing Christmas ornaments, like specifically geared to just him, right? So he had his own little tree on his bar downstairs in the basement, like a 3 foot tree with his own kind of, hunting themed stuff. And that was only where he was allowed to have his hunting ornaments. The rest of the tree was like the traditional family Christmas, right? So you can definitely get into doing, things for niches based on seasons. So like hunting season would be different depending on the animal. You have deer season, you have grouse season, you have turkey season. Fishing, same thing. But yeah, I would if you're going to do that, pick a certain product, then I would try to hit all the seasonal elements in the beginning as much as possible because those are all your peaks, and then try to fill the gaps with memorial stuff for sure, especially around Christmas. The memorial and the celebration of life type stuff, not not for somebody who's passing, but like a new life, like or a wedding or a, whatever you call those, the monumentous events that people celebrate in life, not just birthdays, but like weddings, engagements, you know, different big life events, first housewarming, Christmas gifts, right? Those kinds of things. Those are, really emotional things for people. They're life moments. They're big ticket items, big ticket, I guess, experiences. Um, and then there was new homeowner is actually in here. Yes. Good design can bring you quantity to sales or no. Yeah, absolutely. And it's evergreen. New homeowners, yes. I think that might be too specific. I think new homeowner could be great, but I would probably transition that into maybe like home decor, but maybe like what are we looking at for new homeowner? Are you looking at post like one thing we got that was really nice was it just had home sweet home. Stacy's best friend got it, and it was our coordinates, our latitude and longitude, coordinates, and it just said home sweet home, and it had that on it was nice, 4 feet wide by 2 feet high, and it was like, wood, rustic decor type thing. So if you're doing that, I would, try to identify maybe what kind of new home. Are we talking country homes? Are we talking condo, city condo, right? Again, very different. If it's the condo thing, you're probably leaning more, minimalists or, kind of urban element. Um, where if it's somebody who's buying their first home out in the country, it could be, you know, um, a little more of the barn board, a little more rustic, more of the earth tones and stuff. Yeah, all kinds of stuff there. Um,
We
yeah,
have
and
some
then product,
questions.
pardon?
We have some questions. Do you want to take them now or do you want to
Sure.
do a little?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. I'm figuring out my niche. I've a bit of all of the above. Funny things moms say, all ages. Funny dads saying, all family related sayings. I'm having a hard time to narrowing it down. Is that bad to have general family store like Mom Life, or is there another niche that categorize all of this as one?
So we kind of, touched on the mom life stuff. What age is the mom? Like your ideal customer here, right? Go through that workbook. What age is the mom? What are her likes? What are her dislikes? What motivates her? How many children are, how old are the children? That's a very specific mom. I don't think it's bad to target just family in general. I just think it's so much more work. You're going to be all over the place because you're getting into a specific mom now, and then dad jokes are completely different, complete different thing. You're talking about stupid, sarcastic puns all day that are funny, but it's the stuff that mom's going to roll her eyes at, right? It's not, it's completely different target audience there. So I just think it's way too broad. I think it's you're going down, you're giving me general store vibes here, and it's just because then there's no unique products that you can identify to kind of target those particular customers as well, right? Um,
Okay.
but we also have like, yoga meditation crystals. There was biodegradable phone cases. What we touched on with the biodegradable phone cases is now identifying a kind of I had suggested the floral patterns because this person had a win that was in a floral pattern. Like do more of that and look at not just patterns, floral patterns in general or flora patterns in general, but specifically what was part of that design. So it was green. It was like kind of like a jungly vibe, if I remember, a tropical vibe. It wasn't just going from that one and then just doing a bunch of wildflower designs just because they're hot, but kind of it was what was selling for that person as a bestseller. So like, why not do different versions of the tropical green jungly stuff first, right? And then you'll see if you're selling more or different of that, then you can double down on that stuff and maybe do 3 or 4 different designs that way. If you find that one of them crosses over into more of the vines or like the wildflower element or more of florals instead of just leaves, then You could try expanding on different elements in that, but at the end of the day, we're still doing very much flora patterns, like very much plant-based. And it's part and parcel with loving greenery and plant life and horticulture and whatever it is you're doing to that degree with biodegradable phone cases, right? It just makes sense. Um,
We
I was
we
going to
have more questions. Do you
Sure,
want me to
let's
take
go.
them all?
We can,
Okay.
yeah, it's all niche-based AMA, so we can do that too. I don't have to just keep diving into Etsy here. So let me know if if this is working for you guys. It's a ton of engagement. I'm seeing everybody kind of like paying attention here. So I think this is working and giving a lot of clarity. So if you guys are good with it, we can keep going in this format. I am very good with this.
Okay. Let's take Mike's question next.
Sure.
I have a bit of a long question. While doing the homework and identifying 5 shops and 25 designs, I'm seeing quite a few listings that are selling 20 to 30 per month that have been listed up for up to 120 months. Are those still worth pursuing and creating new designs? Excuse me.
You've just told me that you've identified a store or some products that are selling 20 to 30 a month for 10 years. And then you want to know if it's worthwhile to maybe try to bring something new to it, right? Digest what you're saying. If something is selling 20 to 30 times a month, a single listing, and it has been for 10 years, it is probably a very good chance that you could bring something new to the table and maybe have it sell. A new twist on an existing idea is a brilliant way to break into a market. Yeah, I mean, it's been selling for 10 years, 120 months is 10 years, and it's still selling at 30. And that's a single listing. It makes all of the sense to try to, that would be like a mission to try to dethrone that bestseller for me, right? Like, how can I make something better that would be in competition with that? That niche has been in demand for over 10 years and it's still currently in demand. So, yes, all signs point to yes,
Okay, there
1000%.
was more to the question. I just lost my
Oh,
voice.
sorry.
No worries. There are
Part one
newer
was
listings.
yes.
It's still a yes, but there are newer listings that are 4 to 8 months old that are selling 10 plus a month. Is there a monthly sales number for a newer listing that makes sense to try as a new design? I'm thinking maybe 10 sales per month as a minimum for a newer listing.
That's smart. I would say, 5 to 10 minimum. I would say at least one a week. If it sells one a week, 50 times and then 10 years, so it's 500 times, it's still making you money, right? Over that 10-year span. Ideally, you want something that's going to sell one a day would be great, a minimum. But yeah, 10 a month is a good start. Those ones that have sold that are only 4 to 8 months old may not have reached their peak potential yet. They may just be getting warmed up, right? It may be just, not a super popular niche, and maybe word hasn't gotten out as far as it's spread yet. So yeah, I think that's a good number. 10's a decent number. But yeah, definitely yes, go for it. I mean, why not? It's selling and continues to sell 10 years later. Then that's one of those things for me. It's like tacos, cats, and birthdays, like I've said, are my three biggest. They're never going to go out of style in my lifetime.
Okay, great. Dominique says, what about Christmas animals as a niche?
What's a Christmas animal? Are you talking about like Santa's reindeer specifically? I don't know what that is.
Not sure.
Good question. Follow up, please. Just reindeer. Okay. I think that's too small. It's weird that you have cats in your top three. Yeah, well, cat people, it's not about what I like, right? Again, at the end of the day, it's about what I know there's demand for, what sells, right? When I say like to look inward if you're looking for a niche, it's because it's easier to identify something you're passionate about and spit out a bunch of designs for until you figure out how to design for that particular customer, right? And then you can kind of, angle a different way. Somebody, it was a customer request. I had a fishing shirt and somebody said, "Can you change this to cats?" I'm like, "Okay." So I did that. And then, somebody else, and then it started selling. And then it was kind of like one of those things, right? You listen to your customer, they give you an idea. Don't just create the design and send it back to them. List the design, make it generic enough or make a generic version of it that you can list in your shop, especially if you've been asked for it more than once. And then from there, you can kind of expand based on what the customer's asking. Like Stacy will probably tell you the same thing. She had started with the Great Danes, and then people had asked for this, and then people had asked for this. Well, then she created a listing for that particular product. And then that kind of evolved into something memorial. And then there was a Christmas ornament, and then there's, the different things, right? So paying attention to the customers is kind of where you need to get your head around doing, right? Just because you're doing a cat shop and somebody asks you, can you do this for a dog? Don't say no. Maybe try it, but then, potentially list it if it could make sense, generic. You could then break down into cats and dogs. But I would, what I'm saying, if you're starting and choosing, do something inside out. That's the easiest way to break in. Hope that makes sense.
Okay, well, we don't have a response at the moment to the Christmas animals as a niche, but she had another questions further down. So let me read that. If I have a general store with over 500 products already, should I try to start shifting towards a specific niche or just keep it as a general store?
I would, double down on what's working in that shop and stop doing anything that is not working. So whatever, pick top 2 or 3 niches in that, assuming you have 5 or 6 plus, maybe 10. Uh, just keep going with what's working in that shop. So ideally, there'll be 2 or 3 niches that kind of cross over, like maybe like the reading, the coffee, or tea, and potentially, wine on a couch or cozying up with a book. Like think of the things that kind of make sense together, right? Ideally, there'll be, at least 2 or 3 niches in your general store that have gotten some good traction, and hopefully they will cross over. If not, then try to pick the 2 that cross over and literally just do more of what's working. Don't try to like reset anything or start over. You've got some kind of sales velocity, you got some kind of interest in your shop, and you've got, sales and hopefully reviews. So that's the kind of social proof that it takes a long time to build that. So you've got that there. You're instilling trust with what's working. So yeah, just do more of what's working there.
Okay, Dominique says, I guess I was thinking Christmas themed, animal themed items. And she also says, I have a lot of grandchildren ornaments.
Cool. Christmas themed, animal themed items. I'm not sure I follow, other than if you're talking like dogs with Santa hats, maybe. If
Yeah.
that kind of thing, then yeah, you could do that. Like people could send you pictures of their dog and you could slap a Santa hat on it, right? And that would be very personalized and they'd probably love it. You can use different apps for this type stuff. Stacy's probably got 1 or 2 off the top of her head too somewhere, but she would able to take photographs and give it, some filters and make it look really cool and unique, and was able to add like the Santa hat and that type of thing through it, right? And that's an element of personalization that is, actually taking their animal and cartoonizing it, if that's a word, and then adding the Christmas elements to it. I think it'd be I think that's a good one. If you're doing ornaments already and you have what was it with grandchildren ornaments, like it's kind of,
Mhm.
you're in that same vein, right? Yeah, again, if you're gonna do ornaments, go all in. Do not do a bunch of other different products. Do a bunch of ornaments from now until, you know, until you burn out. Don't burn out, but like just make sure that you're doing Christmas based stuff for the next month or 2 tops. End of November, I would shift to more of the life events. So the memorial stuff, like everything will sell in Q4, but you can get the Christmas theme stuff out of your way. Probably I'd say stop doing it at the end of October and then focus more on the memorial stuff. Uh, good and bad. So like the celebration and the memorial stuff, that all the really, really emotionally heartstring tugging type stuff. Those are
Okay.
those are the things.
Janine has a question. Newbie trying to figure this niche stuff out. If ornaments are a product niche, does that mean shower curtains are a product niche?
Um, Shower curtains can be, yeah. I mean, Stacy sells shower curtains that are dog themed, so it depends. You can have multiple products in a niche store, but in a product store, you would have multiple niches. Does that make sense? Like, so like in a dog owner store, you could have t-shirts for the dog owner, you could have, a dog bowl for the pet. But ideally, it would be centered around the style of pet. So in our case, it would be like large breed dogs. You can be exclusively a shower curtain store for sure, but I would lean more towards things that people would buy more than one of a year. If I was going to try to do something like that, like Christmas ornaments, you could definitely, buy a few, right, over the course of the year for whatever occasion. Shower curtain, I don't know if you're going to be buying more than one a year, really, or one every couple of years, right? So I would maybe, for that reason, you're either going to need to be an authority on shower curtains and be like exclusively a shower curtain, but I would introduce other bathroom items that you could incorporate potentially, or other housewares, not just shower curtains. But you could be niched and introduce shower curtain as a funny addition to a product. We have some funny, goofy Great Dane shower curtains, or like in one shop we were talking about doing the Get Shipwrecked shop, where it was vacation themes or digital nomad slash beach island life theme. Uh, it's like funny shark beach scene, the tropical kind of vibe, on a shower curtain, right? So I would keep it not just shower curtains. I think that's too niched, and not enough. Like I again like something that I would want to have somebody, a repeat customer, ideally come back at least twice within a year's time frame is kind of how I would, define that. If anybody else has any input on that, if you've had any success with like a specific product that people don't typically buy more of once a year, I'd love to hear about it. But I don't know if I would just chase something like that. Add in the, bath mats, or yeah, there are bath mats customizable. I know because Stacy actually bought some. Um, there's different things you can do for sure that you can incorporate and add with the bathroom theme. So you could sell like at least two products. So you could sell like a matching bath mat and shower curtain set. Like now you're getting into like more of the themed home decor, right?
There was a comment that,
Cool.
some people change their um, decor seasonally, which is true with shower curtains too. So,
Yeah, Stacy's mom does the seasonal decor, or has traditionally as well. My
yep.
mom not so much, but definitely. And they would have, set things for every season for sure. I don't know about the shower curtain specifically or bathroom decor, but definitely yeah. Posters, wall art, all of that stuff, right? I would, home decor in general.
Yep, some people do, but
Stuff
Teresa,
that, but think of it as stuff that is easy to swap out, right? Not necessarily wallpaper. You could do wallpaper, but wallpaper is way more cumbersome in terms of trying to change that out, even though Stacy's mom would probably change it every year.
Teresa says, I'm planning to move my store to digital and selected the digital and printable products for cat lovers, if you call it a niche. I plan to sell cat-themed Canva templates like digital photo albums, social media templates for small businesses related with cats, cat-inspired digital planners, cat-themed wall art prints with funny sentences related to the cat in the house. I don't know if I'm going in the right direction chasing the niche.
Super passionate, and I think targeting business owners, cat-centric business owners, is probably a good idea. For digital downloads, you could do like not only small business planners, but like um like meal type stuff, vaccination type stuff, checklists, all those things that people would have to download and print over and over and over, right? Something that would be of high value. That would make sense. Then you're less, especially if your design prowess isn't amazing, then everybody can make a chart, right? You don't have to be great at design for doing that stuff. So that could work too. I think that's a good idea. There's definitely a ton of passionate, small business pet owners or small pet business owners out there. Um, yeah, and then there's all kinds of people. You can target groomers, you can target rescue centers. There's all kinds of elements in there, cats specifically too. And then you can also have, some apparel if you wanted that is all about rescuing or fostering or whatever it is that in that vein too, right? So there's a couple of different avenues there, but I would probably try to like limit, you went through an array of things, but I would try to like kind of narrow in that focus there. Throw a couple of pieces, so to speak, at the wall, see what sticks. within that cat niche for whatever you're doing digitally. And then whatever you start to get some traction in, I would probably just focus in that end for the quickest wins. And then again, when you start to get a few sales under your belt, your customers or potential customers are going to ask you for specific things. That's when you can gear something to them, and then make it, a little bit generic, so not unique to them, but specific to their needs in a way that could transcend like just them, right? So like if they're a small business cat owner, for example, or small cat business, like I don't know, a decline or not decline, but filing or whatever a cat groomer would do or something, right? Um, Maybe they have a specific need for something that a bunch of other, cat business owners would need as well, right? I think that would make sense. But yeah,
Uh,
definitely lots of passion there for sure.
yeah, and like for business cards or things like that where people buy repeat too. Unless I don't know if, well, just digital, you're saying. I don't know. Janine says she just has a quick follow-up question. So bathroom decor would be the niche?
I think you could do that as
Oh,
opposed to just shower curtains. I think that would make more sense because the typical customer isn't going to, change their bathroom shower curtain 4 times a year. There are exceptions to the rules, we know, but um, I think the average consumer wouldn't be buying more than one shower curtain at least a year, right? So I would potentially, yeah, I think bathroom decor could definitely work. And that doesn't mean you can't do wall hangings, right? You could just do funny sayings on wall hangings, like, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's what is it? Yeah, if it's brown, flush it down. That kind of the cottage, the bathroom, all those, the funny things you can put on walls, or just the aesthetics, like a pattern print, kind of maybe a minimalist pattern that would fit kind of the same pattern, parts of the pattern or the colors that match the shower curtains, right? And Etsy now has a thing where you can add up to 3 items and bundle it so that you're offering a discount if they buy all 3 items. So it's a perfect time of year to leverage that because people now are not only shopping with like a more of a frivolous or open bigger budgets, but they're also trying to hit a certain element that I found in like, when people are buying like, okay, I have to spend $50 on this person, I have to spend $50 on this person. And if they're buying for like 3 people in the same room and they open, they don't want one person to feel like they've got a $20 something and somebody else to feel like they got a $60 thing, right? So they're trying to do it in a way that shows the value that they've spent as well. There is that. So that's the kind of customer you want to appeal to. Somebody who's trying to hit, $100 spend. How can they spend $100 in your shop? Make it easy for them by bundling products, offering discounts for 2 or more items, things like that, right? Encourage the multi-item orders and the higher average orders, AOV, average order value of those orders. Yeah, I think bathroom decor could definitely do it. Uh,
okay.
that also works great for home staging. Use home staging in real estate type stuff in your keywords. Home staging is big, and that is stuff that they would buy more than one shower curtain potentially, right?
Okay, Shannon says, I was thinking of trying to target an animal lover, like otters, but it's a smaller niche. I wonder if it would be worth it to also offer a section of raccoons or possums.
Yes,
Oh.
I think so for sure. Was that the end of the question? Sorry.
Um, Axolotls, I don't know how to say that word
Mhm.
exactly, but that's another. People are passionate about their favorite animals, but not as many people as, say, dogs. That's the end.
Yeah, so those I would consider them, for lack of better word, but living in suburbia, I would call them like campground animals. You got your otters in the creek, you got your funny enough, I grew up in a subdivision called Otter Creek, but there's you got raccoons, you've got squirrels, you've got, the whatever 1 or 2 other ones you said. I wouldn't do axolotl, completely different animal, but like you're talking about, animals that you could find potentially in an urban environment as well as that kind of thing. I'd just call them, campground animals for lack of better use or better word. But um, yeah, you could definitely target those animals specifically. And I think there's a good case for that. Like people are like, there's funny. It's like the street animals they call them. You know, there's like looks like a gangster rap album, but it's like a skunk, a raccoon, and a squirrel, and they're wearing like gold chains and thugged out and stuff. And it's kind of funny, right? Like they're the backyard animals that are still wild but common. Uh, if that makes sense. I think that's a good one. Axolotl is completely different avenue, right? That's a something you're either going to have in an aquarium in captivity that is a completely potentially different target audience, right? Somebody who wants to befriend wild animals in nature versus somebody who wants to have them in captivity. Completely two different people typically.
Okay. Carlos is asking, so it's okay to have multiple niches and products without cross niching them?
I wouldn't do multiple niches and products. If you're going to be a product-based store, you're going to need lots of niches. If you're going to be a niche-based store, you don't need lots of products, but it makes sense to add products that make sense for the niche once you've locked down what works for the niche. So, uh, if you're good at design or having some success or have had success in the past with t-shirt design, for example, if it's again, we'll go with like the dog centric stuff. If it's a dog owner shirt that's funny and resonating, then maybe you could introduce the memorial ornament or something for the dog, not just the owner, maybe a matching kind of thing for the dog, a matching dog collar with the same pattern that's on the shirt or the same style. But you want to lock down one or two products at first to make sure that you nail down how to A, design for them, but B, verify that you have a viable product that has demand, right? So, don't try to design for five different products in that same niche because if you're doing a shower curtain, a t-shirt, and a doormat, they're all very different to design for. There's different things to consider. The choir doormats, you have to use big, bold, blocky letters because of the fibrous material that it's on. The t-shirt, for example, you can get away with some distressing, or I would encourage the distressing. Whereas on the shower curtain, when it's a flat piece of plastic that way, it's you can get away with doing like big landscapes that are big square designs that fill the whole space, right? Very different from a t-shirt design, very different from what you would put on a doormat. So for that reason, I would say just get used to designing really well for a particular item or two. Um, Great if you can cross over some elements. Again, like if you're doing a shirt pattern or something with like an aesthetic on it that you can kind of put into a dog collar or a dog bandana or something that would make sense for matching, owner and pet. I think that would be it. But I wouldn't do just a bunch of products and a bunch of niches. That's a general store, and I think you're like trying to drive up a really steep hill with a cylinder not firing or something like that, or like low air in your tires. It's just so much more work. You'll get there eventually if you don't burn out or if the engine doesn't die, and that's the hard part, right? You don't need to have thousands of items, but you will need to have thousands of items if you're in a general store with 1,000 different products. Do not
Okay.
recommend. Work smarter, not harder.
We have multiple more questions.
Let's
We're
go.
an hour in,
Oh, okay.
and
I'll give you guys an
but
out if you want, but maybe I should talk about the homework.
yeah.
Let's do that. So the homework I have for you guys today, I'll share my screen so you can see it here. We'll just make this big. So the homework here is to step one, pick your niche. So it's broken down in a step here. So if you haven't already gone through and done the 25 listings homework, I would make sure you go back and do that for those, especially for those of you who are new. Those of you who have started it, continue to work on it. It's not a one and done, do it today and have some stuff submitted tomorrow. It's going to take you more than a few days. Definitely good practice to go back to if you're ever struggling. So in the pick your niche, we've got choose one or two larger areas of interest. So exactly what we were talking about today, camping, pets, and fitness, right? So write down why they interest you. So first pick the overarching area of interest. This is like your broad niche, right? Write down why they interest you and how they connect to POD products, right? And then come up with at least 3 niche ideas for each. This is, the getting into how to narrow it down, right? So pick one niche to focus on now. You picked a few kind of areas of interest, and focus and refine it. For example, if you'd chosen something like camping, you've got three very different ideal customers here, right? So you've got the RV or trailer travel life decor. So this is part of something that Stacy and I were into, and what we noticed too is that people would bring to the various campgrounds that their trailers are, they're towing their trailers, garden flags that have their family names on them, pennant banners, things, the doormats to wipe your feet off so you're not tracking in the mud, the dirt, and the stuff, right? Like, home is where you take off your shoes, or home is where you park it, right? Funny things like that. And of course, t-shirts work for that niche as well. That particular ideal customer is very different from somebody who would be trailer park glamping, right? I'm going to see, I can do this so you guys can see this. Very different here than somebody who would be trailer park glamping. So if they have a permanent or parked seasonal trailer, they might be more into, they could still do the garden flags to identify their family name. They might also have a mounted flag on it that would sit out that you wouldn't have on a travel trailer, for example, right? Because the wind resistance and whatnot, it's not going to be an element that you would have stuck out. But they might have a flag sticking out of or attached to their trailer itself. They might have blankets that, life is better at the lake, a throw pillow for their outdoor furniture. They might have patio sets that they need decor for, certain things like that, right? Also, in camping, completely different than somebody who would be into hiking accessories, right? You've got water bottles that have carabiners that they don't, hands free. You can clip it onto your backpack. There's also Bluetooth speakers with carabiners that clip on. There's also water bottles with speakers in the lid that I've seen. I think Printify had those last year. Not sure if they're still there, but that sort of thing, right? So there's, identifying camping as your overarching thing, not just outdoor sports, but camping in general. And then you've got, recreational vehicle trailer slash, travel trailer, trailer park, or hiking kind of thing, right? Completely different people. The example for pets, small dog life or pet memorial gifts or a cat parent apparel, right? Very completely different pet owners ultimately. The step 2 is to validate and spot opportunities. So this is nothing new to you guys. So we can use Everbee and eRank. We've got the eRank free trials now, so you can do some deep dive research into some of the keywords in there too. Or even use Etsy proper, so you can filter by star seller and then change out the word star in the URL. I can show you how to do this here actually. So let's go to Etsy.
I'm just going to jump in quick. Yes, this will be in the homework thread. A couple people were messaging me, so you don't have to
Yeah.
write it all down.
You want to make it large screen because then I can't find what I was looking for. We can just go right here. What did I say we were gonna? Oh, bestsellers. So let's with mushroom motifs. Another thing is you can just pay attention from if we were to go back, you just click here, top searches this week. Etsy tells you immediately what the top searches are this week, right? And mushroom motifs, we've seen kind of a growing with the cottagecore stuff. You've got the farmhouse ideal. You got, of course, pumpkin spice, right? That time of year. Librarian core, for those of you in the booking stuff, it's an aesthetic here. I'm seeing, I guess what would be librarian shoes, maybe, but that's a word I never would have known existed. But so yeah, let's just go librarian corner and see what we see here then. So we've got popular now, bestseller. They'll show you some stuff and then they'll show you some ads. That's a funny one. Popular now, this library card shirt. I don't know how I got these yellow lines on my screen. No, no. Is it just from the Google Docs? That's weird. But what I was going to say is we can go into your all filters now, and you just come down to Star Seller, just to show you. So now it's only going to show us stuff from Star Sellers. And then right up here in the URL, you can just highlight star and change to best and it still shows bestsellers. So now it's only going to show us bestseller, bestseller, bestseller. This is a quick and easy way to do your research in Etsy to know what is bestsellers, traditionally better than the Popular Now stuff, right? Popular Now is great for identifying potential gold mines that could turn into bestsellers, but bestsellers are definitely tried and true. I wouldn't write off the Popular Now stuff, but bestsellers are definitely something that is stood somewhat of a test of time, right? So there's that, and then back to the homework here. So you can use Everbee, eRank, and Etsy to check demand and competition. Find 3 successful stores in your niche, so it's kind of a trimmed down version of that previous homework, and look at what products sell well, what designs, phrases, and aesthetics are popular on those particular products. Be open to gaps in the market for new or different products that may not have a ton of competition. So you might be able to, in a dog niche, maybe even doormats could be a thing, like wipe your paws here, right? I don't know, something like dog centric, something that people wouldn't think to put into a dog centric store. I think that would those are the kinds of things that you want to identify, or something that maybe you had a need for once upon a time in a particular niche that you may have had trouble potentially finding, or that you don't just wasn't enough of any of it out there. If there's only 1 or 2 out there, but they're good sellers or popular sellers, and you don't see them uh, enough, like we could scroll through here, and if this is a bestseller, it's a book art poster. It looks like just butterflies coming out of the book. There could be something in the reading niche like this book art poster that you might put in your library or in your office space or beside the couch, something inspiring you to go down the I guess some kind of Fantasia book. It looks like a really big thick novel. Something that wouldn't necessarily be commonplace or a common thought in the reading niche stores, the typical reading niche stores out there, right? Lots of different things you can do here. So this is librarian core still. Looking for unique products here. So vintage library cards. I mean, mugs are traditional. Framed art is something a little less traditional, but booked and busy. So stuff in the reading niche for kids. A little more specific, right? So now we're looking at nurseries, again, home staging, if you're, looking at potential home decor. Lots of ways to get unique things. This could be cool. Our acrylic library window hanging. So these are big. You can sell acrylic signs and do well with those too. But also I was thinking smaller versions of that could be your ornaments, right? Is discussion is freezing periodically? Am I freezing?
No,
Nope.
just, I
Okay.
mean, like a small hesitation, but I can still hear you.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if it's getting glitchy or something, but I should
Yeah.
be good.
Well,
I bought all kinds of data, so we should be great. But yeah, your Smut Street. There you go. What kind of books you read, right? What are you into? These are funny. Library Sign. Again, it's unique products that maybe this could be an acrylic thing. It looks like it's got some layer, but it could also just have a shadow on it, right? Things that might fit into a niche, ideally just identifying competition there. So, or gaps in the market that may not have a ton of competition. And then it's create 2 new design ideas. So based on your market research, sketch or describe 2 designs that could stand out in the market. So before you just go to work designing, jot down a couple of ideas, right? Like some things you can refer to while you're designing to keep you on track. It's so easy to just start designing and then go down weird rabbit holes and then forget what you're designing for just because something looks cute. Write down 3 points or something like that you want to include in the design, the idea of the design, and stick to them, right? And that should kind of, A, help you keep it relatively simple, but B, also help you design with a particular customer in mind. And then I want you to, of course, post your chosen niche, your quick research findings in terms of like what was working for like particular, 2 or 3 long tail keywords that are really making sense. And then, of course, 2 ideas, design ideas that work in the group. So easy enough homework. I talked way longer through it than it needed to be. But again, to recap, pick your niche, choose one or two large areas, narrow it down to one niche within that. So like sub niche a little bit and focus and refine it. And then again, the examples were camping. So in camping, you have the RV, recreational vehicle or travel trailer life, trailer park glamping or hiking. Pets would be, small dog, pet memorial gifts, or cat parents. And then validate and spot opportunities. So use Everbee, eRank, check demand by bestsellers, Etsy alone. Look at the phrases, the aesthetics that work. Try to implement them onto hopefully a product that may not be super saturated or super popular. If not, you can go with whatever products you want. But if you can match what is trending and hot with a product that isn't that not everybody and their mom or sister or brother is selling as well, that's where you can find some potential really good golden opportunities, and then come up with some ideas that you've written down and refer to those long tail keywords or those ideas, and look at your design and design with those particular keywords in mind, so that you can stay so that each one of those particular keywords or ideas is you know the on their own, they're the best keyword for that design. And then, of course, submit your designs. We can get back to a few questions here. I hope that that's some good homework that'll get you guys kind of. I was trying to make it as easy as possible to explain how to choose a niche without being too broad. So if that, I hope that helps. And then we can definitely hit a few more questions here. But feel free to drop off
Okay.
if you have to go.
Yeah, and we have another call in 45 minutes.
Okay.
So, see. All right. Mick says, if you have a general store and are trying to find your niche, to cross over, should I delete the other? Okay. I think he has a general store. He's trying to figure out his niche. Two of the things cross over. Should I delete the other 300 listings that don't fit those niches, or let them ride out Q4 and then start deleting to niche down my store?
Don't delete anything for, yeah, no, don't. You paid for them to be there. Let them expire. I would probably, refresh the ones that have sold before. If they're going to expire in the next 2 weeks, refresh them. So at least it carries you through the next, like through the rest of Q4. Only delete them if they, I mean, you just let them expire, but if they conflict with your path forward. So if you're uh, left politically aligned and you've been targeting both sides of the political fence, you're going to want to eliminate the other ones because you're not going to be targeting either of those sides. You're going to piss off both and sell to neither, right? So if any of the designs conflict with your pass forward, like in a bad way that would put off one buyer from buying from your shop, then I would delete those. But if otherwise, you can either let them expire. If they have sold before, hopefully they sell again, just in generally speaking, but you can also look at revisiting that design and how kind of you could potentially shape it to, the path forward, right? What worked with that design for it to sell? Maybe there's something there. Maybe it's an aesthetic or a singular keyword or the product type that could transition well for your niche going forward.
Okay. Brian wants to know, should you have a few smaller niches in the store that is focused on a larger niche? For example, fishing store could have bass fishing, saltwater fishing, fly fishing, etc.
So as a freshwater fisherman, traditionally, I wouldn't go into some of the bigger, Bass Pro Shops is one thing, but that was in the, we were landlocked, all freshwater. I wouldn't wear a Salt Life shirt or necessarily a Huck shirt or, certain things. It's just because it doesn't apply. You're talking to two completely different anglers there. So I think it could be broad. I would potentially, instead of trying to hit all the fishermen of under the sun, you also have ice fishing when you're talking freshwater. There's all kinds of different, like very, very different. Um, the only salmon we caught were migrating and they were freshwater. We never caught the BC West Coast salmon. Um, I think you're talking to two different customers there. You're definitely talking to somebody who would be more inclined to wear camo even as a fisherman than somebody who would be wearing UV shirts, right? Completely different product types as well. You're on a boat on the water, you're protecting yourself from the sun and the wind. Whereas you're freshwater fishing, you've got, your shades on and your hat and you're good to go. Um, so the product types will vary from that person too. But fishing in general, if you're doing a very generic like eat, sleep, fish, then yes, of course, that transcends the kind of fishing you can do. But I wouldn't try to hit both for sure. Um, a freshwater fisherman on a boat, for example, and saltwater might both wear the gaiters, right? To protect from the wind or the cold for us on the freshwater or the sun, the UV rays on the saltwater. But you might not be wearing, some of the same gear. We might be wearing jackets, but not the UV protected shirt in the southern, climates. So yeah, I don't know. I would try to start with targeting the type of fish that you fish for the most. Freshwater for us, it was easy because you're always, people are hitting bass, but you're always going to catch a pike or a muskie in there as well. Um, you're going to, if you're fishing deeper lakes, you will, in time, if you're fishing deep enough, catch some steelhead or trout or whitefish, right? Like there's, depending on the body of water that you're on. Your son-in-law lives for fishing freshwater. He wears Huck and cold weather gear depending on the weather. Yeah, so Huck is just a popular brand name. Um, it's not necessarily all freshwater stuff, but that's just what's hot right now. Uh, yeah, everybody used to wear Shimano, but they also make salt and freshwater. But yeah, it's not that you won't like the Huck stuff, but cold weather gear is a big deal. That's a completely different customer too than somebody who's going to be out on a 40 foot, you know, like what we were on a 25-foot boat on Monday, right? Completely different. So if you had an Etsy shop for just freshwater though, would there be a big enough demand? I think so. It's huge. Bass tournaments are huge. Big money, big money. Bass fishing alone is huge, especially North America, Canada, and States. And then, I would also not stop at just bass, but freshwater, I would introduce like walleye is big. Um, yeah, some of the good freshwater fish. You got bass, pike, muskie, crappie, some of the panfish, all kinds. Freshwater is big enough for sure if you're going to execute. Yeah,
All right.
water in the north. We lived on a bay that was it was called the Bay of Quinte, but if you Google Quinte Gold, Quinte space gold, we just call it gold because walleyes are in French they're doré. It's the color, it's golden fish, right? If you Google Quinte Gold, you'll just see people holding the biggest walleye you've ever seen. Um, and that's where we came from. It's big, it's huge. And that's just Ontario and the surrounding the Great Lakes. Those are the biggest for the walleye and massive, massive just for those. People will come from all over the planet to fish them, literally. So consider that when you're thinking like freshwater, right? Yeah, just like people will go down to the Keys to fish tarpon from, middle of nowhere, Canada. So yeah, good questions. Good questions. Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to target more of the type of species, but then even like freshwater versus saltwater, very different people. I love to fish saltwater, but it's not the same. You're trolling a lot. You're kind of, where you could be even fly fishing is super passionate, but that's way more action, right? You're moving, you're doing something. Um, Very different.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll try to slip a few more of these in here.
Sure. Yeah. Let's get some different ones.
Kira is asking, is an animal holding something a niche? For example, capybara holding a guitar or cat fishing.
Well, I would say that it's the guitar niche is what you're looking at, right? The fishing would be the animal holding it's still into the fishing thing. It wouldn't appeal to somebody who doesn't fish or doesn't play guitar, right? Unless
I
there's
think she's
enough.
saying, she makes these cute little animals. Is an animal holding something a niche is what her.
I don't think so. It's it's literally just an animal holding something, right? I think if it was like a bunch of animals holding a bunch of mini rock band elements, it could be. But that would be very different from a bunch of animals playing the flute, for example, right? Musical instruments alone, also broad, trying to match that with animals, cute animals playing instruments, that could be its own vein. It could be. It could be. You would just have to do lots and lots to figure out what works. And then once you start selling more of that, then you can maybe I would think more along the lines of like animals in bands even. But yeah, those are kind of like obscure oddities that I think I would want to do more than just band instruments. Like animals doing human things, I think would be going down something there that would be interesting. Definitely evergreen. I would, try it if you have some cool ideas or you've seen it working, try it.
Okay. Amy asked, can you do that top searched this week on the Etsy search bar again?
Yes. So, if you just go to Etsy right here, I'm just going to click. It's just, I just clicked on the logo, search
You're
for
not
anything.
sharing screen.
I'm sorry. I'll share the screen. All right. So all I did was go here, click on this, click on the logo. So this takes us back. Welcome back, Jay. I did a video on these recently, so that's why they're in my feed here. And then, the results are based on what I have searched recently, and some of this stuff has been on these calls. All you do is click up here and it tells you top searches of the week. You're just clicking in the search bar, you're not typing anything in. And right now it's top searches this week. So in the last like 3 days, mushroom motifs, vintage table linens, farmhouse tables, pumpkin spice, suede handbags, and librarian core. Um,
Okay.
yeah, mushroom motifs. What do we have there? Just
And,
out of
okay.
curiosity. Go ahead, Sheila.
Anne Marie is asking, would it be okay if I did research on Etsy for Amazon?
Absolutely. I do that. I do that. I do less research on Amazon for Amazon than I do on Etsy. Etsy, and the reason is because my bestsellers on Etsy have always sold on Amazon, but my bestsellers on Amazon haven't always kind of sold on Etsy if they were created separately or done listed separately. And that's because I believe that the Etsy shopper has always been more artistically educated, more boutiquey. I've always alluded it to the idea of how the UK is ahead of North America in style and fashion, like by 2, 3 years, maybe even more. Etsy was kind of ahead aesthetically and design wise than um, the Amazons of the world, right? It's more of the boutique kind of ahead of the curve type stuff. That said, when you have something on Etsy that has been selling for a while and it's proven, even evergreen designs have a shelf life and that they will expire at some point, right? Or the demand for that will run its course or the trend will die. Typically, if you can take that stuff and put it on Amazon, you might have 2 more years because typically the Amazon shopper is a little bit behind in the trending elements. Yeah, so definitely do that. I search there, and sometimes you can identify stuff that would be uh, huge on Amazon. And the nice thing about Amazon is just a way bigger marketplace, a way bigger reach. So if you can take some of your stuff and get it on that is proven to work, that would be where I would start first. If you're doing the Amazon Printify integration, for example, or you're on Amazon Merch, definitely put your bestsellers on Etsy over there. Sometimes though, the stuff on Etsy or on Amazon will not work on Etsy.
Denise is asking, would cabin decor be too broad? I plan to do totes, wall art, and pillows.
I don't think it's too broad. Wonder if it's broad enough. These cabins are very, it's a segmented market, right? So it's like cottaging and cabins. If you think like I think cabin, I think hunt cabin, I think way more rustic than a cottage even. But it could be part and parcel. So maybe, yeah, if you're speaking about cabins in the same like going to the cabin is like going to the cottage, it could just be different, dialect or different language we're using vocabulary. But if they mean the same thing, then yeah, the cottage element is a big thing, right? Um, People buy throw pillows and decor and wall art just for their, their cottage, right? Lake life stuff. Yeah. Different throws, different things, dog blankets, then so that you keep the dog fur off the couch at the cottage, or if the dog came out of the lake, you know, and they're wet still, they're not getting everything dirty all over the place. Yeah, lots of stuff you could do. I think that's a good niche. People spend money when they go to those places too. If you can afford to have a second recreational kind of home, then those are big ticket customers.
Point. We're at 12:30. We've only got a half
All
hour
right.
before the next
I'll take
call.
one more and then we're done.
Okay.
We got to get ready for gotta let the vocal cords relax and
Yeah.
do a bunch of shop reviews.
Okay, so Mick says, I have been advertising 2 listings, others as well. One in my niche and the other is not. It's in the political niche. They spend most of my ad budget with poor conversion on those items, but I've noticed that when I take those ads off, my sales completely tank. So I think that my organic sales are pushed by those 2 listings. I don't want to keep paying for them, but my sales tank. Should I keep them on or remove the ads and let the algorithm figure out my store again? Hate to lose sales in Q4.
Yeah, so if your organic sales are stuff that is related to the stuff that you're advertising, then only then would it stand to reason that they are driving sales in your shop. If they are not related to what is selling, then yeah, you're just really running unprofitable ads. Kill those ads on those things and see. And when you turn them off, are you leaving it for 30 days or are you leaving it for a day or two? Because that's not nearly long enough, right? A couple weeks isn't enough. You need 30-day increments minimum of data to identify whether it's working or not. So test 30 days on, 30 days off. And then again, if what you're advertising is bringing people to your shop, then what you're selling will reflect similar ideals or motives or motifs based on what you're advertising, right? If they're coming for a political thing and they're buying a cottage core shirt, they're not being brought to your shop by that political element, right? So hope that makes sense. But yeah, definitely much wider spans of time than we typically allow, right? We panic after 3 days and turn them back on. So that's just what we do. We panic as humans. So definitely turn them off, leave it for 30 days. Don't look at it. Come back, get your last 30 days, right? Don't look at your data for 30 days. Just get to work designing for the next 60 days for sure.
Okay, there's just a follow-up question.
Sure.
Does that mean that animals doing human things can be a niche or not?
It can be. Niches are, areas of interest that are unique enough to be having somebody buy more than one item is how I would kind of describe it. So yeah, I mean, it could be. Just because I'm not familiar with it doesn't mean it doesn't exist as one or it can't be one. So yeah, I mean, I could try it. It's evergreen, which is a big bonus.
And Mick says, yep, that's what I did. Oh, oops.
Only a few days and panicked. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. 30 days. You could have just picked a day where maybe that design was targeting people who live in Florida and they got hit by a hurricane, right? Or the whole Eastern Seaboard up to the Carolinas, right? It could have just been the time you turn off your ads and then you had low sales because everybody was kind of like glued to the TV, right? Could have been it. So, yeah. Okay. Love you guys. See you in 25 minutes for some shop reviews. I gotta go wet the throat.
Okay.